St. Elsewhere may not have been the bright and shiny hospital show we're used to today, but one thing's for certain, it was ahead of its time. The fan-favorite show followed doctors at St. Eligius, a rundown teaching hospital that you wouldn't even send your mother-in-law to. A far cry from Gray Sloan Memorial Hospital. But still, the show handled real issues, and its audience absolutely fell in love with its cast of characters.
Acting funny, and I don't know what... Hey, Salami!
Got the wrong guy, pal.
No, it's Warren.
St. Elsewhere ran for 6 seasons total from 82 to 88, and though it never ranked all that high while on air, it's widely regarded as one of the best shows of the 80s, if not of all time. But what happened to all those dashing doctors and the patients they cared for? Where did the staff of St. Eligius end up after all these years?
You know, we were going to drop him after the first year, and I'm glad we didn't, despite what's going on now.
Ed Flanders, no, not Ed Flanders from The Simpsons, though the mistake is pretty easy to make, played St. Eligius Director of Medicine, Dr. Donald Westfall. Throughout his run on the show, begun at 48, Flanders was nominated for 5 Emmys and won in 1983. He left in 1987 to pursue other projects. His character mooned his boss to tender his resignation, but that wasn't the end of his time on St. Elsewhere, and his return was a less than happy one. When Flanders returned to guest on the show in 1988, he launched into an unscripted soliloquy on art and death, which had to be majorly edited. And while his co-stars were left shocked, the producers were left absolutely livid at the extra work that meant for their editing team. Throughout his career, Flanders also played Harry Truman several times, more times than any other actor in fact. He also had plenty of roles in dramatic films, including The Exorcist III and The Ninth Configuration, which wasn't quite as different from his role on St. Elsewhere as it might seem. By the time he died, he was worth approximately $1 to $5 million. Unfortunately, Ed Flanders' life was a less than happy one after his departure from the show. He struggled with depression throughout his life and ended up getting divorced 3 times. That, coupled with a car accident that left him in chronic back pain, ended in his taking his own life in 1995. He was 60 years old at the time.
Well, I have to admit, I often don't know what you're talking about either. You know, it's going to take another year to rebuild that parking garage.
William Daniels' character, Dr. Mark Craig, went through his own set of struggles, though his took place on screen. Notably, in one of St. Elsewhere's most moving scenes, he watched the autopsy of his estranged son, an episode that absolutely landed him his spot on TV Guide's 1999 ranking of the 50 greatest TV characters of all time. Beginning the role at 55, Daniels landed himself 2 Emmys and was in more episodes of St. Elsewhere than anybody else, 129 out of 137 total. You might be shocked to know he played Knight Rider's Kit at the same time he played Dr. Craig. Later in his career, he was well known for his role as George Feeney in Boy Meets World, and again later in Girl Meets World. He even played Christina Yang's mentor in an episode of Grey's Anatomy, bringing everything full circle. Daniels is actually half of Hollywood's longest active marriage alongside his wife of 71 years, Bonnie Bartlett. The pair had 3 children together, though one died shortly after birth. Bartlett played alongside his wife not only in St. Elsewhere, but also in Boy Meets World, and the 2 became the first married couple to win Emmys on the same night since 1965. As if all that wasn't enough, Daniels was the 25th president of the Screen Actors Guild from 1999 to 2001. Now 96, Daniels' estimated net worth is quite contested, but most sources believe it's just over $5 million.
Advice.
All I want is a chance to know my son.
I can't be that person.
But you are. Look at you. You have my father's mouth, his chin, Margaret's eyes.
Daniel.
Please. Let's give ourselves time.
Hopefully, Daniels will live just as long as his co-star Norman Lloyd did. Lloyd was already 68 when he began playing Dr. Daniel Oshlander. He was probably the most well-known actor in St. Elsewhere at the time, and he was originally only supposed to appear in 4 episodes. Luckily, we got far more of St. Eligius' chief of service, and the rest is history. Lloyd continued acting well into his life. He had roles in the Dead Poets Society, The Twilight Zone, and Modern Family, and appeared in several documentaries. His very last role before his death was in Trainwreck, which was released when he was 100 years old. Lloyd was also a well-established director. But did you know that Norman Lloyd was a talented tennis player? He fell in love with the game when he was 8 and played at least twice a week until 2015 when he suffered a fall. His opponents included Charlie Chaplin, Joseph Cotton, and Spencer Tracy. What a crazy roster. He was married to Peggy Craven, a talented Broadway actress and director, for 75 years, and the couple had 2 children together. At the time of his death, Lloyd was worth an estimated $5 million. I am seeing a pattern here. He died in his sleep at the extremely old age of 106 years. Ed Begley Jr. had a lot of good things to say about his co-star. He referred to him as a constant inspiration and his eternal friend. And speaking of Ed Begley Jr., he's got a pretty impressive career himself. The actor was relatively unknown when he began playing Dr. Victor Ehrlich on St. Elsewhere. 33 at the time, his character was not very well liked for the majority of his run. Still, the season finale of St. Elsewhere wasn't the last time he played Dr. Ehrlich. He reprised the role on the finale of Homicide, Life on the Street, too. That wasn't the last time he played a doctor either. He had a main role in Stephen King's Kingdom Hospital. Begley also had roles in Better Call Saul, Bless This Mess, and several guest parts in shows like The Suite of Life on Deck, Scrubs, Portlandia, and the finale of Office. He even did an episode on the show Celebrity Close Calls, where he recounted the 1972 stabbing that almost left him dead at the hands of teenagers in a street gang. Now 73, Begley is worth an estimated, you guessed it, $5 million. The actor has been married twice and has 3 children. Despite his Parkinson's diagnosis in 2016, he remains an environmental activist. At one point, he lived in a 1,600-square-foot green home where he paid $300 a year in electric bills, due in part, no doubt, to the fact that he even used a bicycle that generated electricity to make his toast. He is renowned for riding a different bike or taking public transport whenever he can, including to the 2023 Oscars. He has written and published 3 books, 2 on sustainable living and 1 on veganism. Begley was also part of the advisory committee for Ed Asner's 2004 Racism Watch, founded in an attempt to lessen the impact of some of the Islamophobic ads being run at the time. Dr. Ehrlich's on-screen best friend was Dr. Wayne Fiscus, played by Howie Mandel. He was only 27 during the first season of St. Elsewhere, but in his Boston Red Sox jersey rather than a traditional lab coat, the ER resident certainly stood out. St. Elsewhere was his breakout role, but nowadays the world is certainly no stranger to him. The actor and comedian has done just about everything imaginable throughout his career in show business. He's considered one of the greatest comedians of all time, by Comedy Central no less, and he even has his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He voiced Gizmo in Gremlins and its sequel, and Dr. Honeydew, Animal, and Skeeter in the first 2 seasons of The Muppet Babies. He played Maurice in Little Monsters alongside Fred Savage, and Mr. Mixley's Picklick in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. He starred in a whole slew of his own comedy specials, sketch shows, and variety hours, but Mandel is best known for his role as a judge on America's Got Talent and the host of Deal or No Deal. The latter actually kept him in show business. Believe it or not, he was considering quitting before he was invited to host Deal or No Deal, and he's one of only 3 people to host the same game show in more than 1 country. Breaking from the theme, Howie Mandel is actually worth an estimated $60 million. As for his personal life, Mandel has been married to his wife Terry for 43 years. The couple have 3 children together. Mandel has also been extremely vocal about his personal struggles, from substance abuse to his lifelong battle with OCD. He takes medication to help manage the condition, but he still avoids close contact with other people when he can. He's a germaphobe, so he tries not to touch anyone unless he's wearing latex gloves. In addition to his OCD, Mandel is also colorblind and has ADHD, and he's passionate about raising awareness for the latter condition in adults. That's just a few members of the cast of St. Elsewhere, but their long and storied careers are certainly nothing to sneeze at. From green living to living long, the former physicians of St. Eligius have certainly gone places.